Yo, you know that's him on Bring Them Things. Facts, bro. You gotta get that on. You recorded? Bring Them Things. You hear that? Oh! That's the man behind the voice right there, man. Your boy, man. What's good? It's your boy, Harry Fraud. You tune in to Hot New Hip Hop.
All right, so first and foremost, congrats on the release.
Thank you. Long time coming, man.
For real.
I played you joints at least a year ago, right?
I was about to say, I remember you talking about it a year ago.
Yeah, man. I was working on that for like so long. It changed so many times. Boom, boom, boom. But now I'm glad, you know, it feels good to like let something out to the people and then kind of like re-up, and I feel invigorated to work on the next one. I already got like 10 joints for the next one, man.
We're always working.
Smoke Perp, Lil Peep, Cardi, you know, all types. Rest in peace, Lil Peep. I love it.
For real. Well, speaking of Ross, I saw a quote from you that said it was made from start to finish at his home studio.
Yes.
What's his home studio like? Because his house is fucking crazy.
Well, the studio that I always work at with him is in South Florida, and it must have been like one of his cribs that like he outgrew. I mean, it's still a big, beautiful crib, but he just kind of has that crib there. He got 2 studios in it. He got bedrooms upstairs. People, you know, you just can go. The door is kind of always open if you in his circle. You know, he's a real developer of the talent around him. He kind of knows like that it's important to develop the talent. So, you know, like he just got this like nice crib, and then inside is just 2 studios just there and always working, man. That guy, he's so focused. Like he comes 8 in the morning ready to work. You know what I'm saying?
Shout out to the biggest boss.
So just going through it, I mean, obviously there's so many features, but a couple of them, I mean, to me stuck out as meaningful. I'm sure they did to you, was obviously Prodigy and Chinx.
Yeah.
So I just want to touch on those. Like, when were they recorded? Like, for example, let's start with Prodigy. When was that recorded, and how did that all come together?
That was probably recorded, that verse was probably recorded like a year to a year and a half ago. And, you know, me and P had been building the last like 4 years, recording a lot of music. We were kind of tentatively like working on a project, but you know how that goes. We were more just recording, and he was just like, as I'm sure everybody says about him, like he was just very real, down-to-earth guy, and he would just come, you know, it would be me and him, he'd come sit with us, go through beats, whatever, sit there, take his time, write it, really focus. So that was one where like I made the beats in the crib because I knew I had a session with him the next day. I brought it to him, I played it for him, he loved it, because obviously, you know, people that know the lineage of that sample know it. So, and it's a Queens lineage. So, you know, he sat down and wrote it right there and laid it. And, you know, it just sounded like when I heard that one, it had that texture in his voice. It's like Prodigy, he's always dope, but like it's a certain texture that he hits in his voice, like a timbre that kind of reminds you of like Infamous or Hell on Earth when he sounded a little crazy, and you know what I'm saying? Yeah, and that one had that texture, you know what I'm saying? But me and P really got a lot of music, and there, you know, there's stuff getting worked on that's not my place to talk about, but you'll hear more stuff that we worked on. And I think one thing about P that I always appreciated, just like how I was saying about building those solid relationships, like Pia just hit you up to say what up. Pia just hit you right before he passed. It was about, the last time I spoke to him was about this time last year, a little later. I think it might have even been in the new year. I forget. It was like right in that time, right? He called me just to be like, yo, bro, big up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I see you, little bro, moving, like, good shit, keep doing your thing. And like, bro, like for me, stuff like that means the world. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, this is somebody I idolize, you know what I'm saying, that just call me up to big me up. And it's like, that's what I was saying about, because of how the industry is now, everybody like hits you up the first time they speak to you, yo brother, we gotta work, blah 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 blah. Like, we don't even know each other. How do we know that? You know what I'm saying? But you gotta build those solid foundations with people. You know what I'm saying? And P was just one of those guys. Like, he was just real.
Yeah, I mean, we had him here, and he was just so real.
Wait till I finish speaking to ad-lib. It's like I'm forgetting what I'm saying.
Yeah, and then talk about Chinx, I guess. I guess it's timely now. You know, the story is kind of back in the news and everything. So.
I mean, yeah, but you know, like with that, like, I mean,
you have to touch on that, but just like his impact to the game in general. It's like,
I mean, I'm one of those people that I always said I feel like Chinx was on his way to the top. And I think anybody that was around him knew, like, it was literally, he's one of those people, it was only a matter of time, 100%, before he was going to go. So I think that, you know, for me, it's important. Like, I could never release something without making sure he was a part of it, obviously, because Chinx, along with French, like, believed in my talent way before anybody did, you know what I'm saying? And I always feel like Chinx was one of the people that, when we were coming with that Coke Boys movement and just really smashing the streets, he was kind of like a uniter and a glue, you know what I'm saying, for that time period, you know what I'm saying? Because he would keep everybody kind of together, make sure he was hitting everybody up, you know, like keep kind of everybody in the loop with each other. And I think he was like a really important part of that. So with that particular record, me and French worked on the record in his house, and it just gave me that good feeling that those French records, when he's talking that talk and just, you know, really in the soulful, kind of his soulful chamber, you know. And then, you know, I try and catalog as much of Chinx's work as I possibly can and like really keep on top of it and make sure I have it as everything that I can get and it's organized. So I'm so familiar with all the stuff, you know, even though it's really difficult for me to listen to, like in the sense of there's not been a Chinx verse that I worked on where I just don't, you know, the first day or two I just cry, you know what I'm saying, on some G shit, like just because I'm just listening to my friend, you know what I'm saying? So it, like, you know, it fucks me up every time I have to work on one, but it also like makes me want to make it like, yeah, make him sound in the best light, you know what I'm saying? Which is not hard with Chinx, like, cause he always sounds good. I was saying that to them yesterday of like Chinx just didn't spit whack shit. Like he just didn't, you know what I'm saying?
I'm sure it's probably hard for you in your head because you're trying
Very
to like
hard.
Make sure in your head
Very
that it's
hard.
up to
Even the
heart.
verse on French new album, you know, Whiskey Eyes, that was a verse that I put together, went into the archives and, you know, put together. And I mean, I remember that one just sitting at the desk, just losing it. You know what I'm saying? Just listening to him, losing it. You know, it's hard for me to listen to his music, man.
Well, definitely. Since there is such a diverse set of features, what is the sequencing process for you like?
So I think with this one, like I knew, you know, because I was kind of so wide ranging on this, that the sequencing would have to be based on kind of the music, you know what I'm saying? Meaning like the soundscapes and how they kind of led into each other. And also I knew like, you know, there was gonna be records that the guys who love Prodigy or are going to listen to the tape for Prodigy, they might not love every record on there, but if I could open your mind a little bit and at least, you might not have never heard Lil Yachty. So if at least you give them a chance, that's great. To me, I'm accomplishing my goal. And vice versa. You might be, you know, a Playboi Carti fan and coming to the tape to listen to Playboi Carti, you might have never really sat with a Prodigy verse. You might have never, you know, like that might have not been, you might have never really sat with Rick Ross. I mean, it's hard to not, you know, for me, it's hard to even grasp that, but I understand that there's people that that's not what they checking for, but that's what I wanted to do, and that's why I made sure to call this a mixtape. I know how to play it safe, and I know I can make 10 tracks of like that, you know, what you're expecting from me. But I'm not pushing myself if I do that. And that's not what I want to, I don't want to make projects where I don't push myself. This is my chance to kind of, you know, when I'm doing my own projects, it's like my chance to kind of just like wild out and just go wherever my mind will take me and then try and make sense of it all, like when I'm sequencing it. And there were songs that couldn't make it, that were with huge artists that couldn't make it on the tape because it was just no way to fit them. You know what I'm saying? And that was something, it was just, or it's hard, you know, but it's important to me to make sure that, you know, for the people that do kind of fall in that middle ground of liking everything, like me, like for instance, if I'm a listener, you know, when I'm making a mixtape, I'm making what I would want to listen to as a listener. And these are all the artists that I listen to, so.
As far as your like beat style, maybe even just sampling style in general, speaking of challenging yourself, what's more challenging to you? Is it flipping, because I think, was it Tunnel Vision was like the Eddie Money sample? Is it something like flipping a notable sample and making it unique, or finding some shit? Because I do know you have some like super rare like Italian library fucking samples. Yeah. What's more challenging for you?
I mean, I think they're both challenging in their own way. I think, you know, like when we're working, for instance, earlier this year, I executive produced Action Bronson's new album, right? And mixed it and recorded most of it. And like for that process, it's all about he want the wild shit. Like he don't, you know what I'm saying? You can't come in and play him an Eddie Money sample. You have to come in with fucking an Ethiopian groove from 1974 that, you know, because he just is so eclectic, and like his palette, just like it is in food, his musical palette is very developed, you know what I'm saying? So that process is like every night scouring records and the internet and everywhere so that I know I can come in with 10 hitters of just samples though. And then, you know, we flip them kind of on the spot, but he's also in that way, like, you know, he don't want something very overproduced. So that's challenging in that way of like finding the things that are gonna make him feel something. But then just on the flip side is like when I flip like an old hip hop song or something like that, like I know the target is on my back already. So I know I can't do some whack shit. You know, like I already know the purists are just waiting to hate on me, and you know, and that's always gonna be like, and that's cool because that's their opinion, you know? But I just know for me that it doesn't put pressure because I'm competitive. You know, I like to mix it up and get in there and like have a challenge. So it's definitely a challenge, but it's like, it's exciting to me. You know what I'm saying? But I think they're both difficult in there. I think they both provide like their own challenges. Now, there's those situations where like you dig and you find some shit and it's just an alley-oop. You know what I'm saying? Like, meaning like where you're just like, oh my God, like, come on. Like, I don't, you know, this is not, I know what to do with this. But that also comes from experience and me developing what I know. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, you know, like.
Is there a time when you come across a sample like that where you're like, I don't want to do anything to this because it's too easy?
I mean, there's definitely records that I don't touch because, not that it's so easy. I mean, they are because it's easy, but I also think more so of like, I want to make something better. Like, meaning I want to take your song and make something, I want to elevate it in my own mind. But it's like, you can't elevate Purple Haze. Yeah. You can't elevate Black Dog. You can't elevate, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's just certain things like, you can't elevate them. You have to leave them alone. Yeah. You know, it's almost like blasphemy. Now, if you're making that. That's just for me. If you're making that choice, and I don't hate or have any hang-ups about it. It's just not, that's not what I'm gonna do, because I'm approaching it from a standpoint of like, yo, I want to elevate this and make something new and fresh, you know?
Is it challenging to modernize your sound over time? Because like having someone like Prodigy on the same album or same project as a Lil Yachty is crazy, because a lot of producers get stuck in a sound.
It definitely.
But your sound is like, it like transfers across boundaries.
And I'm mega conscious of that. You know what I'm saying? Of like, I don't think it's difficult, but it's something you have to be conscious of. Because I'm an open-minded person in anything that I approach, but even more so is when I got good at making beats was when I let all the hip-hop hang-ups go, as I say. It's all these hip-hop hang-ups of like, oh, you can't make a beat at this tempo, you can't use those drums, you can't work with that. But like, why? Like, says who? You know what I'm saying? And I used to subscribe to that of like, oh, I'm only making beats on an MPC 2000 and I only want to sample vinyl and I only want to chop drums up. And it's like, I made good beats like that, but when I let all that shit go was when I got good in my own mind. And I also think it's really important, and this is a scary thing for anybody in the industry, but it's important to pull back and work on your craft. And like, I made a really conscious effort to do that in, you know, like 2015, where it was like, I believe in my talent, but I also know that, like, you know, Michael Jordan got to practice, Kobe got to, everybody, you know what I'm saying? You got to get better. You can't just think like, oh, I'm so good, I'm always going to be great. It's like, you're going to get passed really quick. And so for me, I think it's important to like take those times, pull back, and just really focus on getting better and kind of like moving forward and making sure you're listening to what's going on and how do I fit in here. And that's not to say I'm trying to mimic anything, but just I've always been somebody that pulls from all the influences around me and like makes a gumbo. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just important for me to be continuous on that. You know?
One of those experiments bring in like live instrumentation to create your own samples?
Exactly. That's a perfect example. And like, you know, for instance, Dave East Maneuver, Smoke Perp and Drum Count Up, Currency and Fiend, Midnight Drive off my tape, Wiz Press You off my tape. These are all samples that we've created, you know, that we then go reflip, you know, and just the process of that is not some easy undertaking to make it sound good. It takes time to learn. Oh, I have to track the guitar through this amp mic'd up like this. Oh, I need to, you know, record this keyboard sound with this keys through this preamp to like get those textures that you like. And like, that's a fucking tough learning process. But I think a lot of producers and artists and everyone, like once they get on that run, they get scared to go away because they think that people are gonna forget about them or the thing is gonna move past them. And that's valid, but at the same time, it's like, do you wanna be known and mediocre, you know, or do you wanna be amazing? You know what I'm saying? Like, I wanna be amazing. Like, I don't wanna be okay.
So like collaborative albums are like the hot thing to do right now.
Yes.
You've clearly been doing it for a while now.
A long time.
What do you think about people like hopping on the train now? And then do you have any collaborative albums you're trying to work on?
I think it's great because I think that, you know, for a long time, I don't know that people were necessarily being produced in that much, like meaning like there's a lot of beat makers, but how many real producers of the new class are there? A handful. And I think that this, when you collaborate with one producer, it allows that producer to really like put his fingers on it, put his fingerprints on the overall kind of yeah, sound and project, like, you know.
You get that executive production type of role.
Exactly. And I think that what we're seeing now has been going on in hip hop forever. They just didn't necessarily call it a collaborative album, but there would be plenty of albums where artists rely on their core producers, you know what I'm saying? And that works, you know. I just think it works because once you create, and I think there's some missteps of like, you know, oh, these two definitely got together because there was a big bag involved, or you know, maybe they're homies, but the chemistry is, you know, a little off or whatever. But it's important, I think, to try that. And for me, I'm glad that like the fans get bodies of work. Like I do feel like good bodies of work come out of it, and I think that's important, you know. Like, and you know, for me, like obviously I've been doing that for a long time, and in 2018 I probably have the biggest one that I've ever worked on is gonna come, you know. And you know, I can't, it's not my place to speak on what it is necessarily, but I will say like it's definitely the biggest one that I've done, you know what I'm saying? Like as far as a collaborative project. And I think I think people are gonna be really excited for it. I'm really excited for it. And it's not, it's real, like meaning it's recorded. It's not just like, you know. It's
not like a plan.
No.
It's
Yeah. It's recorded. It's marinated. It's marinated.